So the next song is Windowpane Night. In the play, that's the party scene. We see that our lead character has grown up a little bit, and if you remember, there's that birthday scene, and family's disappointed that she's not going to stay there and have the birthday with the family. Rather, she's going to go out and have a real party with her friends. So Windowpane Night is the first song in this initiation stage. It's obviously about partying. We see them at the party and they're all drinking and acting crazy. And some of the points on this song is that it's a fun, upbeat, party kind of song. Kids or any addict listening to it usually will get a grin on their face when they listen to this song. It reminds us of fun times. And there's still, for those of us that are addicts, it still tugs at that part of us. We remember what it was like when it was fun. And so the point is, at the beginning, that using was working. It was satisfying something. It was, whether it was medicating the feelings, I really like not having to feel this crap that I carry around with me, or it gives me, an identity. I really like being part of this crowd. Whatever it is, in the beginning, it was fun. But even in the last line of the song, or the last verse of the song, it talks about got to settle down, got to live for today because there's so much to give and there's so much to say. Always running around like a rat in a maze. It's going to catch up with me one of these days. Our singer realizes that even though this is fun right now, there's a pretty good chance this is going to come back and bite me in the ass. And this song, I'll tell you, very first song I ever wrote. I wrote this song when I was 17 years old. Windowpane was a type of LSD back in the day, and I was doing a lot of it. I was selling a lot of it back when I was 17 years old. This song is what was going on in my life at the time. And I had been in treatment once already, and that's probably where I got a little bit of the idea that it's going to catch up with me one of these days. I knew I wasn't supposed to be using. When I was in treatment when I was 17, I heard the message. I just wasn't going to admit it to anybody else, but I knew I was one of those people. So we were having a good time. Some of the topics in the book, this is what we use just to introduce the topic of addiction, just what addiction means. It starts out, it's fun, it's a downward spiral. We get a little bit deeper then into even the relationship between addiction and spirituality, what it is that we're really trying to satisfy through this use, but that it becomes, we think that we're being spiritual, to some degree. For some people, they really seriously, like the whole 60s was, do acid and find God and have a spiritual experience. But it talks about that being an illusion, that whenever we look outside ourselves for something that's supposed to come from within, we're cutting ourselves off from the spiritual connection. But it's a very powerful illusion. Drugs work really good. They're mystical. They change how we feel. But what we talk about in here is powerful illusion. It brings us really, really close to thinking we're achieving that thing, but really we're a million miles away. We're losing ourselves. So here's Windowpane Night.
Well, last time my brother said I flew to the moon, I said, baby, if that's true, I came down much too soon. Well, last night I laid awake, I was trying to maintain. Didn't know this feeling was a pleasure or pain. And we were lying in the dark, wondering where it's gonna end. I said, Mama, don't you leave me, 'cause here I go again. And we were off, flying through the clouds, and we were off. Thoughts were screaming loud, well, it looks like another one of those Windowpane night. Well, last night at Valley we had nothing to lose, so we potted it down with our bourbon and booze. Hung around a while at the rock and roll show, till we dropped a couple hits and it was time to go. And we were lying in the dark, wondering where it's gonna end. I said, Mama, don't you leave me, 'cause here I go again. And we were off, flying through the clouds, and we were off. Thoughts were screaming loud, well, it looks like another one of those got to settle down, got to live for today. Cause there's so much to give and there's so much to save. Always running around like a rat in a maze. Well, it's gonna catch up with me one of these days. And I've been lying in the dark, wondering where it's gonna end. I said, Mama, don't you leave me, cause here I go again. And we were off, flying through the clouds, yeah, we were off. Thoughts are screaming loud, well, it looks like another one of the window pane night.
Then, if you remember in the play, at the very end of that song, the audience claps a lot. Oh, that was to this point in the play the liveliest part of the play, and everybody had a lot of fun during that song, and they were getting real wild during the party scene and having a lot of fun, and they're all leaving. But then while the audience is still clapping, then all of a sudden you hear the screech of the tires and the car crash and the sirens, and all of a sudden it takes us out of that fun party thing real fast. And then we have the scene where the parent comes on and does a little monologue talking about going through the experience of getting the phone call. It was the emergency room at Presbyterian Hospital. And she says, before they even said anything, I knew. And describes the car drive over to the hospital and what it was like walking into the hospital room and seeing, as she says, my baby sitting in that bed with tubes down her throat. Some people in here can relate to that. This is not far-fetched, is it? And it brings us into the world of a parent, of what it's like to experience that, not knowing, being totally powerless. Is your kid going to live or die? And again, it takes us out of that fun part, and we move up we progress a little ways around that circle and a little further off the path as we start experiencing the consequences that happen as a result of addiction and see how they can get bigger.